Welcome back to The Watch, and we just watched the Super Mario Brothers.
All right, so we just got back from the cinema, and we saw the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, in a packed house.
Oh my god, Jake and myself have just seen the Super Mario Brothers movie.
I mean, yeah, I'll say it definitely exceeded my expectations. I wasn't sky high with them, you know. It's a video game movie, you know. You always got to be kind of wary of what you're getting into. But yeah, with the trailers, it looked fun, looked good. A lot of fun references for sure. But yeah, I'd say it was at least above my expectations.
But I'm just going to come out of the gate and say, I did not care for this film. I did not like it, and I found it annoying.
Wow, fighting words.
As a huge Mario fan, I love this freaking movie. I loved it. I had a blast. I don't know if I've ever had that much fun at a movie. With that said, I don't know if it's a good movie or a great one. I don't know. I don't really care. I had so much fun seeing Mario realized in a way I've been waiting my entire life for, you know, especially after the 93 movie, which I saw as a kid in theaters. Did not quite hit the mark I was hoping for. This one, though, man, it delivered. It has so much heart.
I loved this film. I smiled throughout, and I really enjoyed it. And I'd watch a sequel.
So I don't know, for some reason, before, like while we on the way there, and then like when we sat down, I assumed that it was just gonna be like live action.
Just Chris Pratt in a Mario hat.
I was expecting Chris Pratt to show up in the Mario.
Sure.
And like
You were out of it.
I was just out of it. Like I've seen some trailers.
Done.
If you would have asked me like the day before, I would have known it was animated. I just wasn't ready for it. So like when it started, I was just.
How'd you think Bowser was gonna work?
Are you a fan of like Super Mario or Nintendo, stuff like that?
No.
Okay. I didn't care. I'm not a Nintendo fan. I'm not really a Super Mario fan. It's not a bad film. I just didn't care.
It's clearly poured into it. Every reference just made me happy to see. And not just because they were references, but it just showed that the developers, the creators cared about this movie. And just seeing Mario like realized on the big screen made me emotional at points. Like it was legitimately overwhelming for me at points. I didn't cry. I came close in a way that Mario Odyssey also like made me cry at points. Just because seeing it realized so beautifully, so competently, just made me so happy. And that's something very few movies, you know, elicit from me. Like just sheer happiness. That's what this movie gave me.
You see, for me, yes, adapting the world and being respectful to the source material is really important, but there needs to be an underlining story that takes you through, gets you invested. And for me, there was nothing there on that front.
Whereas the Super Mario Brothers movie feels like it's just Mario.
It feels like it doesn't really care, which I kind of like.
Yeah, this is just basically as Mario as you can get.
I liked how they didn't give many like real world reasonings for stuff in the Mario movie. Like the power up box is the box, the chain chomp is the chain chomp, the bullet bill is the bullet bill. They didn't do any like, you know, subtle stuff. I like how it was just straight up like, and the movie was formatted in a video game form. Beat Donkey Kong in this challenge. Beat this stage. Like it was really faithful.
I think that this movie is going to be so fun to talk about. I can't wait to see how other outlets review it, what all the different kinds of viewpoints say. And I think your initial review right there of just being a huge fan and enjoying the rendering of this world, the rendering of these characters, seeing them in this medium and that bringing you so much joy, I feel like that's half the battle. I think that is a huge victory for people out there, people watching our channel that are going to go see this movie and can rest assured that this is like one of the most faithfully recreated video game characters.
And one of the strengths of it is that they just don't care. Nothing makes sense. They don't give a crap. They just lean into it. This is the world. That's how it is. Nothing makes sense, but kids will love it as a result.
What I realized watching this movie was that Mario, Nintendo, the Mushroom Kingdom gang, all of these characters, I remembered that these are icons on the level of like Star Wars. And I think I forgot that. I think I'm so used to seeing them and playing the games or whatever. And I was sitting there and I was watching this movie and I was like, dang, like animated movies wish they were this iconic.
It's really hard for me to really think like how this movie could look better. I don't think it was like mind-blowing, but it's kind of like it's exactly what it needed to look like.
I get nothing out of it. To me, Mario basically achieves nothing but apart from being a punching bag, there's a theme of not giving up, but all the major, successes are handed to him. And in actual fact, right, Mario, he does save, Donkey Kong. He does save Luigi at 2 points, but at no point do they dare let him save Peach. In actual fact, in reverse, Peach saves him multiple times.
The Mario movie is unashamed of what it is. It knows exactly what it is, and I think they did a surprisingly great job of realizing what's largely a video, what has historically been this video game medium onto the screen in a way that somehow mostly makes sense. Now, again, I say this as a huge Mario fan. I suspect that people who aren't Mario fans are going to be much less positive on this movie than I am.
He would be dead, flat out, multiple times, if not for Peach, and even the climax is subverted by that. And so there is a personal kind of bias I have where I get unbalanced, inordinately annoyed by annoying modern woke tropes. And this film isn't woke in the sense where no character makes a statement like,
It does have some weaknesses. I don't think it's perfect. The story is probably, borderline paper thin, but, so are the games. And again, just seeing them realized in this capacity was just so novel in its own right that it made it easy to overlook its shortcomings. And I think that is kind of where some of the divide is probably going to come from, is is just purely being, your expectations as a fan versus what you expect as a movie, as a narrative from say the more film-going critics, which it sounds like you had to your showing, Jake, whereas I had more of the fan base at my showing.
It is like what we saw in, say, the Batman, where Catwoman just comes out with a dumb line, and you can see these things, but they are very, very just overt, unashamed of making Peach such an insufferable girl boss.
So, this movie is incredibly fast-paced.
I think that's one of the biggest compliments I could give it. Typically I hate super fast-paced movies, but they know what people like. They know we want to see the characters. We want to see the certain plot elements. Bang, bang, boom. It's characters introduced, he's part of the gang. Characters introduced, part of the gang. I really like that. It felt quick, but it wasn't too quick.
If you don't know those references, those little tasty treats are just gonna pass you by. And I think that this movie puts so much of its juice into those little tasty treats that I almost wonder the experience of a human being that is watching this movie not getting those.
I disagree. I don't think she was insufferable. I think it was to a character.
Okay. I find it insufferable because I see it so often.
Yes.
Yeah, I think my daughter will actually love Peach because there's going to be a power fantasy kind of, she's so awesome that she always is amazing. She's an insufferable, and I find that insufferable. That's a Mary Sue. And so when I say it's annoying, those are things that annoy me. And the more I think about this film, the more insufferable I find it. But that's my own annoyance, that I'm just sick of this crap. And when I see it, it annoys me more. Where in isolation, it probably wouldn't bother me as much, but it's just, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
To the extent that they do here in this movie, that there is a story, I was surprised that where they reached in some cases. I'm like, oh, I recognize that. That's kind of cool. And I like, too, that this movie almost acts as this giant Mario theory unification type thing, where it's taking stuff from everywhere and unifying it all into finally a cohesive whole, in a sense. And it really just all blew me away in that level. Just the fact that it functioned, Jake. The fact that we had a video game movie that's so pure the source material that functioned as a movie still kind of blows my mind.
But the Mario movie, it gets down to business, and then you immediately go into this world. I think that's awesome as a Mario movie, which is the main thing I see everybody say. I don't know how I feel about this as a regular movie, but as a Mario movie, this was pretty cool.
She's a princess.
Yes!
She had to look after herself, as in she's isolated. She's in charge of a kingdom. That's my headcanon of why she's so capable, is because she's kind of had to be. Everyone else is little mushroom toads. She has to be kind of girl boss to
But
survive.
the thing is, though, but I think for me, the story is I've heard you call it shallow. I've heard you call it thin. I've seen other people kind of echo this too. I kind of want to go a step further, and I feel like this is pretty much, it's almost nothing. It's almost not there. And the parts that are there, I would almost be willing to push back and say that they're not.
This movie gets robbed of important stakes that you need to feel invested in the film, right? When you actually feel something is at stake of happening, something terrible. Like, oh no, if Mario doesn't do this, something really bad is going to happen, and yet you're rooting for Mario to get it. Well, there's a moment when that's completely subverted because someone doesn't need saving at all. She's got it all under control, and as a result, you're like, and instead they try and flip that to another character that really needs the saving, and at that point I'm just starting to check out because they could have made it like.
And that's kind of the main thing about this movie is that it was just fun.
Oh yeah.
Like that was just the main thing. As a movie, like I already said, I don't really think this is like a great movie on its own. You know? Like I feel like if we were critically looking at it, if we were analyzing the plot, the characters, all that stuff, and see how it all added together.
If you replace Mario, like all the Mario references with just like new bland, like you don't know what it is, I think it would lose points for sure.
That is
Big
definitely
points.
the worst part of it. I mean, if you don't know Mario, you don't know all the stories with like. I mean, they didn't really explain who Bowser was or Peach was. They just know everyone knows that already.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the fundamental, most bare bones theme of Mario in the original game was a damsel in distress story.
Yes.
Save the princess. These stories should not be hard to get wrong, and they get that completely wrong. They in fact flip it on its head to the point where Mario needs saving more than anyone else.
The music choices are really basic, though. I do think they worked. They weren't like
fitting enough.
Yeah, I didn't groan. It was always a little kind of like. I will say, like a couple times the songs were used felt a little kind of like you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And I just think that like from like literal plot points to the emotional arcs, none of it was there. It was we're moving from this cool thing to another cool thing to I'm bumping into you, we're meeting for the first time, this is me, this is you, we're best friends, let's go. And that was the whole movie. They never gave characters an opportunity to speak more than 3 consecutive sentences. They plant nothing, so when things need to have a turn, it's not based on anything. It's just because we're getting close to the end of that 90 minutes. And I don't think it's because it's a kid's movie, and I don't think it's because it's a video game adaptation. I think it's because it's written poorly.
They could have done both.
They
could have made it more competent, but still have the damsel in distress element that can really empower the heroic character to step up and save the day. But they didn't have that. Now, is that going to matter for most audience watchers? Probably not. But I think there's going to be a subconscious thing, because people have emotional responses to very classic storytelling tropes because they connect to them, okay? Guess what? A lot of girls do like to be saved, okay? They like to be saved by the hero. A lot of guys do like to try and save and be the hero as well. And as a result, oftentimes those themes resonate and cause a strong emotional reaction. This is why I have a really positive emotional reaction when I see fatherhood depicted strongly, where a father is willing to sacrifice everything to save his children. That gets me. That gets me in the heart every time, and I can enjoy and connect to a film so much better. And even if I didn't understand the actual storytelling mechanics of what's going on, the result would be more positive.